Welcome to the Above and Beyond Recovery Podcast, where we explore recovery and its relationship to faith, family, work, community, and health.
Hello, I'm Sean Ryan, today's host of Above and Beyond Recovery Podcast. On today's episode, we'll be exploring how to find treatment. There's a lot of ins and outs to the recovery field, and many people struggle to know where to turn or even how to know if they even need help. So we're going to look forward to answering some of those questions today. Our guest today is Mr. Chris Richard. How you doing, Chris?
Great, thank you for having us.
Good. As many of you know, this show is produced by Pennsylvania Adult and Teen Challenge, and Chris is a graduate of our long-term faith-based program. Chris became an intern and eventually a staff member, and now serves as one of our community outreach specialists. So, Chris, welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you.
It's great to have you here. And I think we can get started by you just giving us a little bit of background, a little bit about your story, and what got you to this seat here today.
So, a little bit about me is I'm 42 years old now, and I've throughout my life, I lived my life on installments between jails and rehabs from my addiction that I just never knew how to give up. Grew up with a great family, mother, father, and was very active in the sports, and I always wanted that adrenaline of winning. I always was a thrill seeker, always trying to win, go above and beyond. It came to a point to where I tried experimenting with marijuana and
How old were you when you started?
roughly 17, 18, 16, 17.
Late
18.
bloomer like myself?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and I was just constantly, like I said, trying to find something to bring me outside of myself to make me feel different or make me feel acceptable. But so moving forward, I worked for the government, the state highway in Maryland, and I ended up falling at work. And this was roughly when I was early 30s. So I ended up falling and herniated and ruptured two discs in my back, which the workman's comp doctor fed me Percocets like they were candy. And I took them like they were candy as well. So after that, that created a turmoil, a nightmarish life that I would never wish on anyone. Like I said, between jails, rehabs, and just becoming a destructive person and inside and outside, everyone that I loved, my life, they would tell me, choose us or the drugs, choose us or the drugs. And constantly I never found, or I never thought in my life that I would be able to find a solution up out of the mess. And I tried to end my life in it was February of 2019. I got out of jail January of 2019. And, of course, my family said, choose us or the drugs again. And of course, I went down the road and chose the drugs. And I thought I was just destined to be a drug addict the rest of my life. So I ended up trying to take my own life with opiates and woke up to a random man on the streets of Baltimore that administered Narcan to me. And Pennsylvania Adult and Teen Challenge was the only place that would come pick me up on a Sunday. And, coming up, I thought it was going to be the quick oil change and back out into society of, doing Chris's will again. But I came up and I saw the love of Christ like through each and every person at this facility. And it was just so attractive to me. And, the rest is pretty much history, as you know, because that's where we met each other and
Yeah, that's right.
butted heads at first, which
A little bit.
it's just crazy to this day because now he's my boss, he is my mentor, and he's just somebody that I really look up to. And just, through the program, through the process, like I'm always constantly trying to take Chris's will back and like do things my way, play God, and submitting yourself to God is just one of the keys daily of getting through anything and everything in life is what the things that I learned through this program. So just getting through the year-long program, becoming an intern, and then becoming a staff member of a couple different departments and I just love doing what I'm doing because it is just giving back. And that's what God wants me to do, is to give back the love that he has given me and the second chances that he has given me.
Yeah, that's awesome, man, and you're doing a great job, bro. I'm very, very proud of you. I do want to point out one thing. It was neat to hear, and I don't want to say it's great that you got Narcan back to life, but I always hear people get a little controversial about Narcan, and they don't think that we should have it or what have you. But thank God that it was a resource to bring you back to life, because if not, you probably wouldn't be sitting here. And so the Lord used that guy and that particular product to keep you alive, and then bring you here to us. And now look at the great work you're doing, man. It's pretty exciting. So before you got real bad, well, when you started getting real bad and things started happening, did you know much about rehabs and how they worked? I mean, were you in and out of them before? Did you understand treatment levels or anything like that?
Yeah, I came into, many different treatments and never took anything serious, of course. It was just the 28-day oil change or like the 5 to 7 day detox. And I had this thing,
Right.
but not realizing when you're in a facility, like you're in a bubble of you're around, great people with great ideas, but when you step out them doors, you have to change everything in your life, and that's people, places, and things that caused you harm or just bad for you in general. And them are the things that I never did. Was I always ran back thinking, the old friends, like it would be okay, like I can help them and save them too.
Sure,
But
sure.
within a day, couple days, it was and going through them programs, they always told you it was the NA and AA, which worked for some people, but they told you to find a God of your own understanding, and that was tough for me because I've never experienced the love of God before, but He's always been there.
Yeah.
I know that. It was very awkward for me. I remember hearing in a meeting sometimes, choose a God of your own understanding. You can even choose a doorknob, but I know a doorknob will turn on you. Jesus Christ will not turn on you. So,
That was pretty good. That was off the cuff too, huh?
yes,
That was
sir.
pretty good. Yeah. Well, I have to agree, and I think that's what differentiates us, Teen Challenge, from your normal everyday rehab, is that we know who God is, and we know what He can do in the lives of people, because we see it every day. I've seen it in my life, I've seen it in your life, and so many others that we work with here. And then guys who graduate here, we see what the Lord can do in somebody's life and how they can change them. And I think that's what makes Teen Challenge such a special place. We're not opposed to using resources and different tools to find sobriety and to help get to sobriety, but we know at the end of the day, for a long-lasting, sustaining sobriety and for new life and for joy, that only comes from the Lord Jesus Christ. So I think that's great. So now you're doing some things now, which I think is great. You work in community outreach, which is an awesome department, and you go out and you're in the community, and you're working with a lot of different resources and people who are in the treatment community or even in the legal system. And can you explain kind of like what you do, and then how all that works together for somebody who's trying to get into recovery and stay in recovery?
The goal of my job objective is to just get with people and just really explain, like tell them my story. And that has gone from different pastors to going to hospitals and just explaining and just having them know that there are resources. There are, that I'm not trying to sell the program. I'm trying to sell what God has done for me and just let it show. And we've made some great connections with what we're doing with a certain.
Yeah, I mean, with the legal system, I mean, because that's I mean, and
Yeah,
me too, right? So
right.
that's a little bit of our background for a long time. So we have like a heart for people who are in those circumstances. And you have done a great job, and you can talk about it, getting involved with the legal system and the parole officers and the judges and all the things that we're doing now.
Yeah, so actually went to court with a good, awesome PO that I think that we're actually going to become real good friends because, he's just been so super helpful.
And he's saved, which is neat.
Yes, and he is saved, and that is so awesome. But just connecting with them and just going to different like state parole halfway houses where parolees go that don't have a home plan, they actually have to go to this certain halfway house, and just being able to. I remember going there 2 weeks ago, and I was doing a drug and alcohol eval for them and trying to help them get into a different outpatient type care. And it was a guy that just got out of doing 27 years, and it was just so he was so intrigued, knowing he didn't know. He saw me and just thought I was another Joe from the street. But once I shared my story of being in state prison to the, it's not going to be easy. Like there's going to be times that you have to battle through. Like just it's so awesome to be able to share the love of what God has done for you and what like can happen for these guys, because I do have a heart for it.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's neat too. Is this is why I think I love Pennsylvania Adult Teen Challenge so much. We're not here waiting for people to come in. We're going out into the community and we're trying to reach out there and partner with these organizations so that we can offer the first of all the love of Christ, but also these services that we offer. So instead of just sitting here and waiting for people to call in, we're actually out in the community. We're providing services for people in the community for different organizations, non-Christian organizations. I mean, Warnersville State Halfway House isn't a Christian halfway house, but it's neat to see that us as Christians, we're partnering with these programs that are in the world, and they're allowing us in, and it's giving us an opportunity to share the love of Christ and our story and provide services that are desperately needed for those people. Yeah, I think it's great. And again, you're doing a great job. So with regards to what we do, and I know, why don't you explain, you went through all our levels of care, and can you kind of explain them a little bit, because not everybody understands when you say level of care. I was talking to a lady on the phone the other day, and she kept saying, oh no, that he's going to need detox, he's going to need detox, and I think he was smoking marijuana, and I'm like trying to explain to her that, he does not need detox, and she was bent on sending him to detox, and so they don't always understand. So do you mind talking about that a little?
No, so I came through the detox program because I was on hooked on opiates, and just I went through the detox program to actually just clear my body of the chemicals, and just it was an easier process of being able to be medicated with the medically assisted treatment that we have here. So it made the process a lot easier to go through and step up into the 30-day program, which is more clinical based program of anywhere from the cognitive behavioral classes. Just it's that's a real good spot to actually learn what you're going to do with life, and how you really want to proceed with your recovery. I believe long term is the meat and potatoes of any kind of achievement for long-term sobriety, obviously, is getting yourself away from the drug for a long period of time. And yeah, we have a 90-day program called the Grace Program, which is it's part of our long term. You're active into whether you want to do ministry work, which we have a bunch of different ministries, which are awesome. And I think the prison team is something that I was in as a student that's actually getting put back together. But a street team, a street evangelism of being able to go out, and so you can be involved in them programs and them ministries and things like that. And you're also doing group studies for new Christians, because there's a lot of people that do come here that, you don't have to be a believer. That's one thing I know is you don't have to be a believer, but that's exactly what happened for me is I saw God's love, and it was just easy to become a believer, and just going through them group studies for new Christians, and just learning how the Bible is part of you, how you know it was written for me. It was written for you. It was written for me. It was just an awesome component of being able to, and you learn to just rely on others, rely on your brothers, rely on prayer. Um, it's just it's an amazing experience that I just never knew existed. Like I've never in a million years had the loving friendships and the people that I can call true brothers through the long-term program. And that's basically, our long-term in a nutshell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in a quick nutshell, 'cause there's a lot
Yeah,
that
I
goes on with
know.
that. So we touched on detox, which we have, which is kind of like for your withdrawal management. That is for your opiate users, your alcohol users, or your benzo users, barbiturates sometimes, medications that will cause some type of withdrawal. Then we have our 30-day program, which is generally your next step down, which is what you did. And I think you would probably agree with me, that's more to just kind of get yourself stable just to get your sleeping patterns back, to get your thinking back to the point where now you're ready to kind of get into our 90-day program where you start doing some actual chores and some you're working a little bit and you're doing ministries, and then we also have intensive outpatient with that, which was what your groups and your counseling was. And then once you're done that, after about 90 days, you would stay on for what's called our faith program. That's another 7-8 months. We do outpatient counseling with that. And so you did all those things, and then you stayed and you interned.
Yep.
Okay. So what was the internship
Yeah.
like a little bit?
So just graduating our long-term program and just knowing that everything is a step for a reason, from the detox to the 30-day to the long-term, and then you're getting back out into society a little bit when you intern. It's I actually stayed an intern and worked for his wife. That's actually, she was the manager of our admissions department, to where I was helping get people in off the streets that would call and just need
Treatment.
need treatment.
Sure.
And I would be able to help place them, help them like decide which level of care and stuff they would need. And some people do call in for our outpatient as well, that to where the problem might not be as bad, to where we can actually get them an eval. And sometimes maybe they will need inpatient, but sometimes that we can hook them up with some outpatient treatment. But yeah, the internship was great, though, of being able to reintegrate myself to society. And just because it wasn't like a full, because there is still components of programming that we do have to do, as far as groups twice a week, and mandatory chapel services and things that we must attend. But that just helps you just learn what you're going to be in society, like who you really want to be and what you are. And I just remember the light like hitting me as an intern, just knowing that there was a chance to work here and give back what was freely given to me is just a crazy awesome experience.
Yeah, so you got to taste the world a little bit, but yet still had some structure,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Okay, and you were a great intern. I remember you working for my wife. Those are some fun times,
Yes.
right? But you did mention that when people call in, they didn't always come inpatient. We would put them in one of our like outpatient centers. So that's another neat thing that Pennsylvania Adult Teen Challenge has now, through our acquisition of the Naaman Center. We have outpatient services, which means that you can stay at your house, and you have a job and you have kids, and you can't just commit to some inpatient programming yet, or you're just not at that level where you need to be, so you can get some counseling. And I think it's another way that we're reaching out into the community. Instead of waiting for people to come to us, we're getting out there. And we have a lot of centers, right? We have 6. I run these ones. I should know exactly how many we have. We have 8. We have 8 centers, outpatient centers out in the community, that we can help people who aren't coming into our program, which I think is great. A great feature that we offer. So when you're coming into programs, and me and you, we see lots of different programs and what's good and what's not. What are some things that people should be looking for if they're going to come into a program? If they're looking for treatment help, what should they be looking for?
I would say, if you're looking for treatment help, you definitely want to look at success rates and what's working, what's the aftercare, because that's something I never did, obviously looking. But if you were looking for treatment, that you want to see what works for people. And that's the most attractive part. Is this has been the first thing in my life that's ever worked for me. And it's just crazy to know, of me wanting to end my life, almost 4 years ago, to being in a position to try to pull others out of that muck and mire. But looking for programs.
Well, definitely one that what's working.
Yeah.
And then I think you would probably agree with me. The full, like a good continuum of care is nice, right? Because you were able to kind of stay with us through your transitionings of detox to a short term, to a 90-day, to a long term, as an intern, where you got back into the world, but you still were supervised, and now you become staff. And I think anytime that someone, and you would probably agree, if you're staying in the same system with the same people who know who you are and are working with you, because I remember you left that one time.
Yep.
And but then you were there, and then you called to come back because that wasn't working out. So you came back into Teen Challenge, and then through that continuum of care where we could just keep working with you and monitoring you and helping you and supporting you, I think that is really what makes us a lot different than a lot of other organizations, and is really good for somebody's recovery. Because I know you, we know you.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? So we know your goods, your bads,
Right.
and we've known each other long enough now where I can hold you accountable, and we built that relationship, and I think that's, like you said, long term is always the best, and we provide that here.
And if I can add to, I just wish I would have known something like this coming from like prison or something like that, because you're in that bubble, but like I have to change everything. I wish there was a chance to be able to step into a long term, which we do actually offer from jails into,
Yeah.
our long term, direct to
Direct
long
to long term
term.
program. Yeah.
So, that's just one thing that I think's awesome, and it's going to be very beneficial to those
Yeah.
utilizing it.
Which I think we've had great success. We bring a lot of people from the jails, and they have a place to go for more than just 30 days. Because most programs are generally 30 days, and then they go to some type of halfway house or sober living house where there's maybe not that accountability that they need, and so being here is for that long term is definitely beneficial. And look how well it's worked for you,
Yeah,
right?
no,
So,
absolutely.
all right, so let's talk about the misconceptions of treatment, right? Because everybody kind of has their own idea of how treatment works, and how it should work, and what should happen with treatment. What are some misconceptions that you think you've heard or that you thought about actually before coming in?
Well, some misconceptions for me personally is I can't change the program. I wanted to come in and change everything about the
You didn't.
program.
No, you didn't want
But
to do that.
no, some misconceptions is like it's gonna it's gonna work
Right.
regardless.
Right.
There's work to be done on your part in order for it to work.
Well, I think that the Teen Challenge one is, as long they're in Teen Challenge, once they graduate Teen Challenge, they're gonna
It's
be
good.
fine.
Yep.
He's saved. He's perfect now.
Yeah.
Everything's gonna be great. And then they graduate, and unfortunately, I mean, it's a tough world out there, and addiction is a very serious thing, and some people don't always do well when they go through Teen Challenge. And our goal is obviously for success for everybody, and we do have a very high success rate, like you said, but we're not the magic cure-all. We know who is, and all we can do is provide that opportunity for them to meet him. But we're just Teen Challenge, and we're going to do the best we can. But it's not the one-stop shop, like everybody thinks. So you deal with families, and I've dealt with families, and they call in and they expect us to be running the program a certain way. Like they want to tell us why, we should do something for their child or something like that. That they get these ideas of like, okay, well, this is how a program should work. How come they only get 2 calls a week? Well, there's a reason they only get 2 calls a week.
And
Because
also like families, guys that come into treatment thinking that just because they're in treatment, everything's gonna be fine.
that's from the opposite end. That's
Yes.
excellent,
Yep.
right? Yeah, that all of a sudden, or husbands and wives, like
Yep.
the husband starts getting better. He starts calling his wife. He feels like his wife should be totally in love with him.
Yep.
Everything's forgotten. Everything's perfect. Honey, I'm doing great. I've been here 2 weeks. You know what I mean? I'm ready to come home. Like that kind of stuff, right? Or the big one is, I think, after we get a little season time underneath us, 3 months, 4 months, like we're ready to go home. Like we got this. We've got it under control. We understand what's going on, and that's just not the case. We have to trust that God put a program together, and He put the time frame together for certain reasons. And if you work the program like it's supposed to be worked, great success can come from it. With regarding the communities and working together, and we can kind of wrap it up as we're going to finish up here. What are some of the ways that if someone's trying to find treatment, what would they do? Like if you had a loved one that needed treatment, like what would be your first thing?
So there's multiple things that come to mind, but I think of real big misconception is law enforcement's out to get you. Every PO and every police officer I've dealt with is willing to help. They know that they can help and they will help. There's just a big misconception, and I used to think it.
Yeah.
I used to run from these guys. Now these guys are actually.
Yeah.
I see their heart for helping and stuff like that.
It's funny that you ran from it. Now
I know.
now you work with them every day, and they're
Right.
sending you guys to bring in. That's funny.
Also, there's places called Warm Handoff, which are in the hospitals. Several hospitals have the Warm Handoff program where you can go if and they'll basically make calls for you. There's always a caseworker or CRS inside these
You're
hospitals
like
that,
24 hours a day, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that are just willing to there's different raise project
Mm-hmm.
avenues that people know that they can go to that just they'll help place you somewhere
Yeah.
that just maybe fits your needs for different if you have mental health issues or just different the dual diagnosis aspects. So yeah, there's a different
So,
avenues.
and we work with a lot of those. Like one of them is like the jail diversion program. If you have a drug charge and you want to get help, you can go to local law enforcement, and instead of them charging you with the drugs you have on you, they'll take your drugs, dispose of it, and try to place you into a program that they work with. We are one of those programs that we work with. The warm handoff is generally like what in your emergency room, and we deal with like Hershey and Reading. You can go right into the emergency room, tell them that you need treatment, and then they'll pull these warm handoff workers. And the good thing about them is, because obviously someone has to pay for treatment. Treatment isn't free because people work at treatment centers and they have to get paid. But the warm handoff will have like grants and different things, and money is available to help put people in treatment. And the best thing you could do is what I would do is I would call Pennsylvania Adult and Teen Challenge, and that number is 844-888-8085. There's always someone there to answer the phone, to do a pre-screen, and if there's something that we can't do to help you, we will surely try to help you, find the help that you need. So I think that kind of wraps it up. It was a great interview, and I appreciate you taking time out of your day. I love you. You're one of my good friends, and it's been a pleasure and a privilege to watch your life come together and to see what the Lord is doing in your life. So thanks for hanging out with me, man.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me, and I've enjoyed it. You've always made my stay here and our friendship very comfortable. So
Okay, good.
I thank you for that.
And challenging.
And challenging, yes.
That's what friends are for, right?
Yes,
All
thank
right,
you.
thanks a lot. Before we close the show, we'd like to talk about the habits that we're making this week that are helping us find wholeness in our lives. So, Chris, what's your wholeness habit for the week?
So my wholeness habit for the week would be physical, mental, spiritual health and maintaining them. And actually, as you can see, the physical health aspect hasn't been up to par lately. So we are going to try and speak into existence different eating habits and things. So, I have right now a great relationship with my Heavenly Father, which I love to maintain daily and just try to be a light to others.
Well, my wholeness habit of the week is Chris is getting married in November, which we are very happy about and excited about. He's met a great, godly woman. And they have asked us, me and my wife, to do some marital counseling, which we feel like we can do. But we also are going to do a book with them, and that we're excited about. So that's going to be kind of like my wholeness habit with my wife. It's called Saving Your Marriage
Before it starts.
Before it starts, thank you. Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts, and it's by Dr. Les and Leslie Parrott. And we're pretty excited to do it with them, and that's going to be my wholeness habit. That's it for this week. Chris, thanks so much for joining us today. It was a great time. And those of you listening, don't forget to leave us a comment or email us with a question at AboveBeyond@paatc.org. That's AboveBeyond@paatc.org. We are looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you for joining us. The Above and Beyond Recovery podcast is a production of Pennsylvania Adult and Teen Challenge. If you or a loved one needs help with addiction, call us now at 844-888-8085 or find us online at paatc.org. That information is also in our show notes. Join us next time as we continue the conversation.